Let me be brutally honest with you. Most men walk into relationships thinking they know what hurts a woman the most. They think it's cheating, lying, or neglect. But here's the cold truth. When a woman doesn't truly value you, the thing that stings her pride the deepest has nothing to do with betrayal. It has everything to do with one thing: you not needing her validation anymore. And this is where most men get it wrong. You see, society has brainwashed men into believing that if they give a woman everything, attention, money, loyalty, emotional support, she'll automatically respect and value them. But ask yourself this: if that were true, why do so many good men end up broken, discarded, and replaced by someone she barely knows? Why do women sometimes walk away from the very men who gave them the world? Here's the answer most men are too scared to face. Women don't always value what's handed to them on a silver platter. What hurts a woman the most when she doesn't value you isn't your anger, your silence, or even your departure. It's when you live your life in such a way that her absence doesn't affect you at all. That's the moment she realizes she was never as important as she thought she was. Now let's slow this down because I want you to fully understand what I'm saying. Relationships run on dynamics, not feelings. Feelings fade, but dynamics shape behavior. And one of the harshest dynamics is this: when a woman senses you've stopped needing her approval, she feels powerless. And when she doesn't value you in the first place, that powerlessness burns even deeper because she thought she had the upper hand. Think about it. When a woman pulls back, ignores your efforts, or disrespects your worth, she's sending you a clear message: you're not my priority. Most men panic here. They beg, they chase, they try harder, thinking effort will buy love. But every ounce of effort you waste on someone who doesn't value you only confirms to her that she was right to devalue you. That's why so many men end up feeling invisible, because they hand their strength over on a silver platter. But here's the controversial twist: the thing that will hurt her the most isn't you arguing, crying, or proving yourself. It's you doing the exact opposite. It's you becoming untouchable. It's you walking with a level of self-respect that says, I don't need your validation to breathe. That's when the game flips. That's when she starts questioning herself. That's when she feels the sting of being irrelevant in the life of a man she assumed would always orbit around her. And listen carefully. This isn't about playing games or trying to make her jealous. No, this is about you reclaiming your position as a man who knows his worth. Because when you value yourself more than you value her opinion, you expose the truth. Her lack of respect never diminished you. It only diminished her importance in your life. And that hurts more than any argument ever could. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a woman who once thought she could pull your strings like a puppet. She ignores your texts, mocks your ambitions, or constantly compares you to other men. Now, instead of fighting for her attention, you redirect that energy into your goals, your health, your growth. You don't explain yourself. You don't beg. You don't argue. You simply outgrow her. Suddenly, she's no longer the center of your universe, and that's what shatters her the most. Why? Because deep down, every human craves significance. When someone we expect to chase us stops chasing, we feel exposed. And for a woman who doesn't value you, this exposure is a reality check. She realizes she wasn't the prize. She was just an option. And trust me, that realization stings harder than anything you could ever say to her face. But here's the part men need to hear. This isn't about revenge. It's not about trying to punish her or prove a point. It's about recognizing your own worth and refusing to hand it to someone who can't appreciate it. The hurt she feels is simply a byproduct of you stepping into your true strength. Most men don't like hearing this because it means they have to stop blaming women and start taking accountability for the power they give away. But the truth is simple. The less you chase validation, the more respect you command. And when a woman who never valued you finally realizes she's lost access to you, your time, your energy, your presence, that's when she feels the real pain. So as we dive deeper into this video, I want you to remember this. You don't need to raise your voice, you don't need to play games, and you don't need to prove anything. The most controversial truth is also the simplest one. When she doesn't value you, the most powerful move you can make is to stop giving her the privilege of being needed. That alone hurts more than any breakup speech ever could. And that's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. Let's get straight into it. When something is always available, it loses its value. It doesn't matter if we're talking about money, food, or relationships. The more easily something can be reached, the less people respect it. And this rule applies to you as a man. When you're too available, constantly picking up the phone, always bending your schedule, always proving yourself, you send a signal you probably don't even realize. I have nothing better going on. And whether she admits it or not, that's the moment she begins to lose respect. Here's the harsh truth. Women don't admire men who place themselves at the bottom just to win affection. They admire men who stand firm in their own purpose and force others to earn their time and attention. Because when something is rare, it becomes valuable. And when something is constantly in supply, it becomes disposable. This is why so many men feel frustrated. They give and give, but instead of getting more respect, they get less. Instead of appreciation, they get indifference. Why? Because availability without boundaries creates boredom. You've removed all challenge, all curiosity, and all sense of exclusivity. Think about it. Imagine a man who answers every single call within seconds, who cancels his plans the moment she texts, who never says no. At first, she may enjoy it, but slowly the dynamic shifts. She no longer wonders where he is, because she already knows. He's waiting. She no longer feels the excitement of earning his time because it's guaranteed, and that predictability kills her interest. Now here's where it gets controversial. Many men believe being too available is a sign of loyalty, care, and love. They think it shows strength, but in reality, it shows desperation. Loyalty without self-respect isn't loyalty, it's submission. And while women may accept it in the short term, deep down, they don't respect it. What really hurts a woman who doesn't value you is when she realizes your attention isn't infinite, when she sees that you're not just sitting around waiting to please her, when she understands that if she doesn't appreciate your presence, you can and will give it elsewhere, or simply invest it back into yourself. That's when she feels the sting of losing something she took for granted. Let me paint you a picture. A man is dating a woman who slowly stops respecting his effort. She ignores his calls, takes days to reply to messages, and laughs off his ambitions. Instead of walking away, he doubles down. He buys her gifts, calls her even more, rearranges his life to make her happy. But what happens? She pulls back even further because his desperation confirms she has all the power. Now imagine the same situation, but this time the man responds differently. Instead of chasing harder, he steps back. He doesn't stop caring, he just stops making himself too available. He continues building his life, spending time with his friends, focusing on his fitness, his work, his goals. He no longer answers instantly, and he no longer begs for attention. He becomes a man with direction. What happens then? Suddenly, she feels his absence. She notices the gap where his constant attention used to be. She begins to wonder, why isn't he chasing me anymore? Who or what has his focus now? And that shift is powerful because it forces her to reflect. It hurts her pride because she realizes she's not the center of his universe anymore. The deeper lesson here is simple. Respect is tied to scarcity. A man who makes himself too available is like water from a tap, always flowing, always there, always taken for granted. But a man who values his time is like a rare bottle of fine wine. He's not for everyone, and access to him must be earned. That's why you need to understand. Pulling back isn't about punishment, it's about self-respect. It's about reminding yourself and her that your time is valuable, that you're not here to be drained or disrespected. And once you establish that boundary, something interesting happens. Even if she doesn't say it out loud, she feels it. She feels the loss of what she once took for granted, and that discomfort is what truly hurts. Too many men think love means being endlessly available. But real love, healthy love, requires respect. And respect cannot survive without boundaries. By being everywhere all the time, you erase the very thing that makes you valuable, your rarity. So remember this, being too available doesn't make her love you more, it makes her respect you less. The moment you stop being at her beck and call, the dynamic changes. And if she doesn't value you, this shift will hurt her more than any words you could ever say. Because suddenly, she realizes you're not the man waiting in the shadows. you're the man moving forward with or without her. Here's a controversial truth most men overlook. Your silence has more power than anything you could ever say. Words can be twisted, arguments can be ignored, and explanations can be dismissed. But silence? Silence forces people to confront themselves. And for a woman who doesn't value you, that silence speaks louder than any speech you could deliver. Why is this so powerful? Because silence removes fuel. When she disrespects you, mocks your effort, or ignores your presence, many men fall into the trap of reacting. They argue, they explain, they demand recognition. But every time you do that, you hand her proof that she still has control over your emotions. She knows she can push your buttons. She knows she can drain your energy. She knows she can break your frame. But when you meet that same behavior with silence, the entire dynamic shifts. Suddenly, she doesn't have the reaction she was expecting. She doesn't get the fight, the debate, the desperate need to be heard. All she gets is space. Space where your attention used to be. And trust me, that silence echoes. Silence has weight. It makes people wonder. It creates questions that words could never answer. When you stop responding to disrespect, you force her to ask herself, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he fighting back? Why doesn't he need to explain himself anymore? That uncertainty is uncomfortable, and that discomfort is powerful. Men often underestimate how much noise they create with unnecessary explanations. You don't need to justify yourself to someone who doesn't value you. You don't need to repeat the same words, hoping they'll finally sink in. Silence protects your dignity. It tells her, without a single word, that you don't argue for a spot in someone's life. You either belong there or you don't. Think about it. How many times have you spoken your heart out, only to feel like nothing changed? How many times have you explained what you need only to be ignored? That frustration comes from believing words will fix what only boundaries can fix. And silence is the ultimate boundary. It says, I'm no longer playing this game. Now, let's make this relatable. Silence isn't about ignoring her existence or pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to pour energy into someone who refuses to value it. It's about redirecting that energy into yourself. When you stay silent instead of arguing, you free up space to focus on your goals, your peace, your growth. You stop bleeding energy into conflict and you start building strength from within. And here's the sting. Silence makes her feel something she didn't expect. Irrelevance. As long as you keep reacting, she knows she matters in your emotional world. But the moment you stop, the moment you withhold your voice, she realizes she no longer has that grip. And that realization is painful, because it forces her to see that her disrespect no longer shakes you. Silence is also a mirror. It reflects behavior back to the person responsible. When you don't argue, you give her nothing to deflect onto you. She can't say you overreacted, she can't twist your words, she can't play victim. All she's left with is her own behavior staring back at her. And that's often harder to deal with than any lecture you could ever give. Men often confuse silence with weakness. But in reality, silence requires discipline. It takes strength to hold back your words, especially when your pride is wounded. But that discipline is what sets strong men apart from desperate ones. Because desperate men try to explain themselves into respect. Strong men let silence protect their value. Here's the deeper truth. Silence isn't just about her, it's about you. It trains you to stop reacting emotionally and start thinking strategically. It gives you the space to see things clearly without the fog of anger or frustration. It reminds you that not every battle deserves your energy, and it allows you to walk away from situations with your dignity intact. So remember this, your silence is not empty. It's loaded. It tells her you're not begging for recognition, you're not fighting for scraps, and you're not dependent on her approval. It shows that you value peace over conflict, self-respect over validation, and strength over weakness. And that's why silence hurts more than your words ever could. Because words can be debated, but silence leaves no defense. It leaves her with one harsh reality. You no longer need to prove yourself to someone who couldn't see your value. Let's be real for a moment. Too many men waste years of their lives stuck in relationships where they're not respected, not valued, and not prioritized. And instead of leveling up, instead of moving forward, they stay trapped, hoping that one day she'll wake up and magically appreciate everything they've been giving all along. That mindset is the reason so many men stay broken. Here's the harsh truth. Waiting for her to see your worth is a waste of your life. The real payback isn't in arguing with her, begging for her attention, or proving yourself over and over. The real payback is outgrowing her. It's becoming such a stronger, sharper, and more focused man that she can't even recognize the version of you who once begged for her validation. Outgrowing her means refusing to stay stuck in the same patterns. It means leveling up your mind, your body, your finances, your habits. It means breaking free from the illusion that she was the only source of your happiness. And this is where men need a wake-up call, because too many of you are investing everything into a woman who already showed you she doesn't value you, while neglecting the very things that could transform your life. Here's what men need to face. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're not leveling up, you're falling behind. And if you're giving your best energy to someone who doesn't respect you, then you're draining yourself dry while she keeps moving forward without you. That's not strength. That's weakness disguised as loyalty. Criticism time. Stop calling it love when it's really just fear of being alone. Too many men hide behind the idea of "I'm just being loyal," when in reality they're terrified of starting over. But here's the controversial truth. Clinging to a woman who doesn't value you is the exact reason she never will, because nothing is less attractive than a man who refuses to grow. The only way to flip this script is to wake up and outgrow her. When she sees you moving forward, when she sees you no longer orbiting around her, when she realizes you're building a life that doesn't need her validation, that's when the sting hits. Not because you tried to hurt her, but because you proved that her lack of value didn't stop your evolution. Outgrowing her is powerful because it shifts the focus back onto you. It's not about revenge. It's not about making her jealous. It's about making yourself better. It's about becoming the man who doesn't chase what doesn't respect him, the man who doesn't settle for being undervalued, the man who uses pain as fuel instead of letting it break him. Imagine what happens when you redirect all that energy you've been wasting on chasing her into your growth. Instead of texting her 20 times, you're reading, training, hustling, creating. Instead of sitting in silence waiting for her attention, you're building something for yourself, your body, your career, your purpose. That transformation doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how you see yourself. And here's the key lesson. Outgrowing her isn't just about making her realize what she lost. It's about making you realize what you've been ignoring. Because the truth is, the best version of you doesn't need constant validation, doesn't beg for scraps, and doesn't stay where he isn't valued. The best version of you demands respect without ever saying a word, because your life speaks louder than any argument. So let me be blunt. If you're still chasing after someone who's shown you she doesn't value you, it's time to wake up. Stop pouring yourself into a bottomless pit. Stop waiting for her to change. Stop thinking she'll suddenly see your worth if you just hang on long enough. She won't. And even if she did, you'd still be the man who wasted years waiting. The real victory, the real payback, is in walking away and outgrowing her. Because once you do, you'll look back and wonder why you ever settled for so little. You'll laugh at the version of yourself who begged for attention. You'll respect yourself more than you ever respected her opinion. And that transformation, that undeniable growth, is the one thing she can't take from you. Outgrowing her is the closure you've been searching for. It's the statement you don't even have to say out loud. It's the move that hurts her pride more than any speech ever could, because it proves you never needed her to become great. You only needed to wake up and value yourself. We've broken down the truth piece by piece, and now it's time to leave you with something that will sting a little, but it needs to be said. Here it is. The reason so many women don't value men today is because men don't value themselves first. That's the controversial statement, and I want you to sit with it for a second. Most men blame women for not respecting them, for not appreciating them, for walking away when they gave everything, but what they don't see is this. You can't expect someone else to value what you've already discounted. And too many men discount themselves every single day. Think about it. You cancel your plans just to fit into her schedule. You answer every message within seconds, as if your entire life revolves around her. You bend, you break, you sacrifice, all in the hope that she'll finally look at you and say, "Now I see your worth." But why would she respect a man who doesn't even respect his own time, his own energy, his own dreams? That's the core problem, and it's why I'm telling you. If she doesn't value you, the only way forward is to stop giving her the power to define your worth. Value yourself so deeply that whether she stays or goes, you're still solid. That's the foundation of true respect. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming cold, cruel, or heartless. This is about refusing to be weak, refusing to be a shadow of the man you could become. It's about waking up to the fact that real strength doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being complete on your own. Here's something most men need to realize. When you stop chasing validation and start chasing growth, everything changes. Your presence changes. The way people treat you changes. And yes, even the women who once ignored you will notice. But by then, you won't even need their validation anymore. You'll already have moved on to a higher version of yourself. And that's why outgrowing her, staying silent, and not being too available aren't tactics or games. They're principles. They're standards you live by because they protect your dignity and force you to keep growing. That's the only real way to win. So let me challenge you. Stop being the man who settles for being undervalued. Stop thinking loyalty means staying in places where you're not respected. Stop making excuses for your lack of growth by hiding behind the idea of love, because love without respect is nothing but weakness, and weakness never earns admiration. I know that's uncomfortable to hear. I know some of you might even be defensive right now. But if this message stings, it probably means it's speaking directly to your situation. And instead of ignoring it, take it as the wake-up call you've been avoiding. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me. Have you ever been in a situation where you realized she didn't truly value you? How did you respond? Did you make yourself too available? Did you fight with words, or did you finally outgrow her? Share your experiences, because I'll be reading and responding. I want to connect with you directly. This isn't just about me talking at you. It's about building a conversation with men who are ready to wake up and take their value seriously. Because the truth is, you're not alone in this. Every man has been there at some point. The difference is whether you stay there or whether you rise above it. And let me leave you with this final thought. If she doesn't value you, stop trying to change her mind. Change your life instead. Because once you level up, once you step into the man you were meant to be, her opinion won't matter anymore. You'll be too busy living at a higher standard to worry about someone who couldn't see your worth in the first place. That's the real victory. That's the real closure. That's the truth most men don't want to face, but the ones who do will never live the same way again.